Today's topic, why am I focusing on happiness right now specifically? To be honest with you guys, I've dealt with depression for a long time now. And it's not the type of depression where you sit in the bed and can't get up all day and can't really function. I'm a highly functioning individual. I can do a lot of things. But it was the mild depression, the depression that lingers and lasts for, a week here, 2 weeks there. It really just sucks the life and joy out of you over a long period of time. And that is the depression that I've been dealing with for many, many years now. What I want you guys to understand about this sort of depression is that it comes and it goes. I mean, there could be times when I'm completely happy for, a month, and then it just shows up out of nowhere. But the point is that it would just keep showing up. And you guys know the funny thing is I'm actually feeling a little conflicted putting this out because I almost feel some guilt, like, you're whining, man. Why are you telling people the story? It doesn't matter. What wasn't that bad? You're weak, man. You're showing weakness. That old mindset is still up there, and it still is pervasive in my brain, and putting something like this out there is like putting a weakness out there, it feels like almost. But you have to get past that, and this is a part of growth. This is actually part of strength and showing strength, putting out your flaws and faults out there so other people can get better. I completely acknowledge that my situation is not as bad as other people's situation. There's people in the world who have had much harder lives than the life that I've led, and I'm so thankful for my parents and everybody that I've had. The thing is that I'm not going to compare my mental status to someone else's. I can only talk to you guys from my experience here, and I know other people are going through different things, but that doesn't diminish what's going on in my head. And oftentimes that's what we do. We look at other people, we say their situation is worse than mine, so I can't feel bad. Well, you got to take into account how you feel, and just because your situation isn't their situation doesn't mean that you don't have something that you got to deal with. Coming from that stance and that point of view, hopefully we can move forward and not compare difficult situations and kind of just move forward with the situation that we are presented with here. And also, where do I feel like I have the right to talk about this? Well, number one, I got a bachelor's and master's degree in social work. I've done a little bit of work with family counseling. At one point in time, I worked as an intern at a psychosocial rehabilitation center. I've spoken to people with diagnosed mental illness as well as addictions. Does that make me an expert on the topic? No, not really. I think what makes me more of an expert is I was a teacher for 5 years and just learning the spectrum of human emotion there kind of helps. But no, really my expertise on this, if you want to call it that, is from my own experience. Going from and analyzing my own situation and saying, okay, this is what was causing my depression and how I really got to the point where I was able to beat that. Going from really dark places to the point where you experience pure joy is such an amazing feeling, and I want you guys to have that feeling. I want to pass that on to you guys. That way you can take that into your own lives and improve the lives of other people. I'm also making these videos for the friends that I've seen on Facebook, Instagram, just talking about difficult situations that they're having with their mental health. They're going through similar situations that I've gone through. And if I have that knowledge, I'm in possession of that knowledge, but it's just too much to sit down and have a conversation about, and then it's all solved. And if I can get that information out to more and more people, because I know more and more people are struggling from this, they can access this information at any point in time that they need to, and they can kind of have my blueprint as to how I got out of it, and maybe that can help somebody that I know personally who needs that help to get out of the situation. As well as just, man, I think there's a bunch of guys out there that just have a real problem with showing emotion or acknowledging that they have a mental health issue or whatever it may be. I just think there's this whole thing in society where it's like guys are just supposed to be strong. Look, if something bothers you, get over it and go on about your life. And I think that's kind of the worst advice you could ever give somebody. Also making the channel for that reason as well, because I see the need for it in our society. And I think the conversation about mental health is so important. And I think it's starting to get to a point where we're talking about it more. And I want to be a part of that. So with that being said, let's go ahead and move into my experiences, and you guys can find out a little bit more about me. First of all, I think it's important for you guys to understand a few of my personality traits that I have. Number one, I'm an introvert, which means I need to recharge my social battery every now and then. I can't be around people constantly. Number two, I'm shy. Asking out a girl in person, oh my God, forget it. Luckily, I don't have to worry about that anymore. Have a girlfriend. Number three, I'm a sensitive and emotional guy. I cry during things that are emotional. I cry during things that I cry for things that I connect with. I cry for achievements that people have accomplished after overcoming goals and stuff like that. Hey man, I get emotional about it. And you know what I've learned is that I have empathy, and it's not a weakness, it's actually a strength. Another part about my personality is that I think people are better off in their lives without me interfering in it. And that's something that I've had since I was really small. I wouldn't even want to go knock on my friends' doors to ask them if they want to ride bikes or not, because I felt like awkward about interrupting their days. I don't know. It's a weird thing that I got. I don't know. I'm also deeply prideful, so I don't like asking for help for anyone, and I'm very independent. If I have to ask for help, I count that as a loss. And another part of my personality is that when I take a loss, I take it hard. When I win, I brush over it like it was nothing. I don't celebrate. When I feel like I have to ask for help, I feel like I have that loss. It sticks with me. It feels like I'm not as competent as I would like to be. And this is really a self-defeating thing. If you want to accomplish anything big in this world, in this life, you're gonna need other people working with you. You can't do it by yourself. And that's something that I'm learning slowly but surely as I move through this personal growth process. So those are things that I started out with. Now let's talk a little bit about some things that I developed as I moved on. We have to start with my life as it was when I was in Colorado, and I was in a military family, which means we moved around a lot throughout the course of my young life. From about 2nd to 6th grade, I lived in Colorado. I developed a friend group. I started flourishing as a young person. I was pretty normal, whatever normal is, but I was pretty normal, hung out with the other kids, was interested in sports and all that good stuff. My friends started to try to push me out of my comfort zones. I remember one funny story where I had a really big crush on a girl. I told my friend about it, who's also a girl, and she threatened to tell the girl that I liked her, and I was like, no, you can't do that, and it forced me to go ask the girl out myself, so she wouldn't ruin it for me, because I was afraid of looking like a wimp. That's one example of my friends pushing me out of my comfort zone and trying to expand my, social circle. But my dad retires from the military, and we move over to Tennessee, where he was from. And Tennessee is like a whole other culture shock. It's like I moved from this military base where it seemed like all the kids just got along and race was never thought of. But I moved to Tennessee, literally the kids were segregating themselves. I walk into this middle school gymnasium, and all the black kids sitting with the black kids, all the white kids sitting with the white kids, and all the Latin kids sitting with the Latin kids. I'm like, what is going on? Where do I sit? I'm mixed. I don't know where to go. So I go into like a little shell to myself. Now I do end up with a friend group. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't like some little outcast kid for the next 6 years of my life. I had friends. I played outside with them, and normal kid stuff. But like my introverted nature really started to kick in, and my isolation from other people really started to kick in. This is also where escapism started to come in for me. I was escaping from my environment, Tennessee, and all these new weird people with video games a lot more. I would just stay in my room and play video games for hours and hours and hours and hours. There's nothing wrong with playing video games, but when you're doing it for that reason, to escape from your world, that's a crutch, and that's not something you want to do. Anyway, moving on from that point, escapism was something that developed in me. And also a self-deprecating humor. I didn't know how to fight when I moved to Tennessee, didn't know how to come back on somebody. Like if they were saying something negative about me, I didn't know how to say something funny about them and come back at them that way. So my self-defense mechanism was to use self-deprecating humor. So if they say something about me, I'll just agree with it. Yeah, you're right. And then take it a step further and make it funny. That did not help me in who I am. I mean, some people do it, comedians do it every day, and it doesn't really affect some of them. So I start hearing the laughs off the self-deprecating humor, and I see that nobody's really messing with me because I'm with the self-deprecating humor. It's like all good. Cool. So I start using it more and more and more, and I start using it before somebody even says anything. Now I'm throwing it out there because I'm liking the laughs that I get, so I throw it out there more often before somebody even says something to me. And I think it started getting internalized in me and started a whole lot of negative self-talk. If you continue doing that, you're going to start developing a level of shame in yourself and who you are, and you start becoming afraid to be yourself. That's never a good thing. That was another part of my personality that was starting to develop over the years. So let's talk about middle school. So I developed a small friend group. Felt like we were kind of like the little outcast kid. I don't know, maybe some of them were more affiliated with other people than I was, but I felt like we were kind of like a little outcast group through 6th through 8th grade. We get to 9th grade. I have like a little rat tail on the back. It's curly like my hair. I'm in 9th grade with a rat tail, and it's not 1980. I mean, needless to say, I was awkward. I was small. I carried my whole locker in my backpack. Walked around the hallways with my head down, just trying to avoid contact with seniors. It was that kind of life. I get to sophomore year. I meet one of my best friends in the world, Trey. His social, outgoing behavior, it was like a spark for me, and I start getting more acquainted with more people. And my friend group changes, and I joined the football team my senior year, and I'll become much more adapted to my environment as senior year ends, and I know more people, I talk to more people, but of course still having that introvert nature. Then I move on to college. Not a whole lot of my friends moved on to the same college with me, even though it was like really close. I was gonna go out to Memphis, didn't go to Memphis, ended up at Middle Tennessee State University in Murfreesboro, and high school happened all over again. Middle school happened all over again. It's like something completely new. I have to build a friend group, freshman. I'm uncomfortable with myself and who I am. I'm around all these new people, wearing a do-rag to go play basketball to hide my hair because I'm not comfortable with it because it hadn't grown out long enough for me yet. I don't really have a lot of people to talk to. I'm living in an apartment instead of the dorm rooms, meeting all the new freshmen, and we're all going through this thing together. Instead, I'm living in an apartment with like juniors and seniors. They're kind of like over college at this point, where I'm like new to college and wanting to go out and have fun and all this kind of stuff. So it was just two different wavelengths. I end up going into, more of that isolation, introvert. I'm gonna play video games when I get home from school. If I did go out to parties, going by myself. I kind of go through that year. Freshman year was kind of lonely. I move into sophomore year, get a relationship going. It's a great relationship with a longtime friend. So that lasts until junior year. I meet two friends that end up becoming lifelong friends for me. They introduce me to Iota Phi Theta, my fraternity. Like, my entire world changes from there. Like, I get a whole social circle, meet new people, do things that I never thought in a million years I'd be doing, like getting in stage in front of thousands of people doing a step show. Like, it was really cool. If there was a time, like, I hate talking about the past, but if there was a time I could go back to, that would be it. That senior year of college, it was just fun, man. Like, that's what college was supposed to be. That was just so much fun. But what you'll notice is I've established myself late, and now it's over. So what happens now? I go get a job, basically a in-home family counselor, you could say. I would work with troubled youth and their families in order to try to help them have a better, more cohesive life together. Man, you hear some of the most heartbreaking, heart-wrenching stories that you ever want to hear in some of those homes. I was driving around all Middle Tennessee because I have to meet them at their house. I'm driving around all Middle Tennessee, waking up at 7, getting home at 6, 7 o'clock, and then doing my notes for each session until like 9 and having to go to sleep. I mean, after a year of doing that, I just couldn't do it anymore. And I decided I need to get a higher level degree. So I moved to Miami. This move is brought on by me. I decide I'm gonna go to Miami and get this degree. I'm excited to move to Miami. I'm like, man, whatever, it's just another move. Basically considering myself to be Superman. I can deal with anything emotionally. Doesn't matter what you throw at me, I got it. Not realizing the pattern that's been going on in my life, like of having to adjust and it taking time. I decide, okay, Miami it is, because I want to live in Miami. I just think it would be fun. I go down there, I get accepted into Barry University. I find an apartment, like a 300, 400 square foot apartment, and it's right on the beach. I'm paying like $800 a month for this little tiny thing. It like doesn't even have a full kitchen. It's like a little kitchenette, like a little half refrigerator and no stove. Had to have one of those little portable electric stoves to make anything. But I was fine with it. It was fun. It was great. There was nothing wrong with the place I lived in. The problem was isolation. And with all the personality traits that I talked to you guys about, throwing isolation into the mix is not healthy at all. And I mean, this is like true isolation, because I don't know anybody down here. The great part about Miami was the people I went to school with and my internship. Awesome. Like I couldn't have asked to been around better people. The problem was having anybody to communicate with while I was at home. Again, the introverted life, I'm not gonna go out and just talk to people. What I found is that I got really extremely lonely while I was at home. It was bad, man. That depression that just sat over my head, the cloud got bigger and bigger and bigger, and I'm sitting here isolated away from everybody. A cousin that I looked up to passed away while I was living in Miami, RJ, and I always looked up to him and his sister Nicole. He's only a couple years older than me, even though we never really hung out like that. Always looked up to him because they were always doing something with their lives, always going out and accomplishing something. I wanted to be like that. That was a tough thing too, and I don't know if that happened before or after this. I just remember this one night specifically comes to my mind, and I'm driving home from some club I went out to one night, and I of course went out by myself. I drank a little bit before I went, but I was fine by the time I was driving home. It was about like 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, it was a really boring night out, and I was just so depressed and done. I just wanted that to be it. This is called suicidal ideation. I wanted to die at this point. I mean, just to put it frankly, I wanted to die. As I'm driving home, I see this bridge and crying, just like feeling like a complete loser. I just, hit the gas in my car. I see this bridge. I'm thinking, well, if I hit the side of this bridge hard enough, at least that'll kill me, or it'll knock me unconscious and maybe we go into the water and that'll do it. That'll be a wrap. It's a moment of weakness. I don't think it would have happened. Too many ways it could have gone wrong. And honestly, this is the reason I'm thankful that I never owned a gun, because they're just so effective at what they do and they leave little room for error. In a moment of weakness, if you just slip, you're sitting there thinking about it and you just slip, and that one moment of weakness, you can't take it back. And that's why I'm grateful. At that point in my life, I never owned a gun. And I don't think I would have done it because I just love my family too much, and I wouldn't do that to my family because I know how devastated they would be. But it was a thought that crossed my mind. Wasn't the first time. It's just a time that sticks out to me, and it wouldn't be the last time either. I'd have a lot of this coming up in the future. It's just a really dark place to be in. Long story short, there's no dramatic thing. I end up just turning on the road and just going home about my business. That cloud, it's just been getting bigger and bigger and bigger over the years. At this point, it's huge. I end up graduating though. I end up getting that degree and moving away from Miami because my head was big, and I tried to find a job that suited me and I was ready for and I felt like I could go get. And I didn't find anything. I moved back to Tennessee. I still can't find anything. I'm living at home with my parents. I'm 25 years old. I have no job. I have no girlfriend. I have pretty much nothing going for me that I thought I should have going for me at this point in time in my life. This is a different kind of depression. This is, instead of isolation, this is like independence and loser depression right here. That whole suicidal ideation thing is going crazy in my head during the year that I live at home during this time. I found art at this time though, and I start getting really into art. I spend 10 hours a day learning how to draw things. I get really, really good at it. As well as I meet an incredible person named Issa. We start talking day and night. Just hilarious person in general, always had me laughing, and it was just a really good relationship to have. You know what, like if I think about it, over the course of my life, I've met some really incredible people that I can't tell you how much I'm thankful for that I know them or have met them. Eventually, I get really good at my art. My friend sees it online, Erin, and she's like, hey, want to be an art teacher? I'm like, you're crazy. I can't be an art teacher. I didn't go to school for that. I do a little interview and I get hired, and I decide, okay, I can't find anything here. This sounds like a good gig. So I take it. I move out to Las Vegas. We end up being roommates when I move out here, and it's awesome because she's hilarious. I crack up every time I talk to her. It was just a really awesome roommate situation. It was really cool. So at least I'm not completely isolated out here in Las Vegas. I know someone. The dark cloud starts to dissipate here. I'm going out, I'm meeting people here and there. After a year, I move out, get my own place. Then it's kind of like isolation again. I start finding hobbies to get into, because as I'm playing video games, I finally start realizing the escapism involved in it. And I'm like, man, I'm escaping from life right now. I need to put this down. I need to engage in my life a little bit more. So I find hobbies. My first hobby besides art was the guitar. and it didn't last very long. I never learned how to play it really great, but I got the idea from my friend Hosian, who also lived out here. So now I've got a few friends out here hanging out with him. I got the guitar, started playing it, started learning it, and through hobbies I start finding a little bit of happiness. Then I meet Jamie, and oh my god, life is completely different now because of her. When I first met her, I was doing the hobbies, but not to an extreme extent. And you know, she introduces me to the whole concept of there's no such thing as being bored. I'm like, what are you talking about? No such thing as being bored. Are you crazy? People get bored. This is what happens. But there's really so much to do out there, is what she said. How could you possibly be bored? It took me a while to buy into that concept. Eventually I'm like, holy crap, you're right. There's so much to do. How am I bored? This is where things blow up. I get a Udemy account and I just start getting course after course after course. I start learning it, and thing after thing after thing after thing after thing, spending hours upon hours learning this new stuff that some of it I don't currently use right now. Some of it I do currently use. Example, video editing. So I start learning all this stuff. I have a relationship going. I'm watching motivational videos in the morning before going to work and learning how to improve myself. Jamie puts me around these new positive people. I'm reading books on self-help. The whole world expands and it gets bigger. My vision expands and gets bigger. And it's really crazy how that happened. Throughout all this growth process, it really all culminated into about a couple of weeks ago when I had this feeling of just pure joy. Is that to say that I don't have issues today? No, I have issues today. But there was just this feeling a couple of weeks ago of pure joy, and I found it and I knew exactly how to access it again. And that's what I'm gonna be passing on to you guys this week. I'm gonna call it the GPS to happiness. And I'm gonna tell you guys kind of step by step what I did in order to find this moment in time that was amazing. That is why I'm making this channel. And I'm making the happiness videos first because it's what's so important to me, is to help you guys out of these dark cloud moments and time. I cannot tell you how good it feels. I can sit here and say I've beaten this damn mild depression that I've dealt with for my life. I've beaten it. It's gone now, and if it's not gone, I can make it go away quick. I know what to do to make it go away, and I want to pass that on to you guys because I know where you're coming from. If you're in these dark places, I know how it feels. I know how much it sucks, and I know how badly you want to get out of it. And if I can do something to put all the information in front of you in one place, that way you don't have to go looking and searching for it, that's what I want to do. And if these tangible tips can help you do that, that's what I want to put in front of you. And that is why, guys, that is why I've created this channel, and that is why I'm pushing for happiness right now. And eventually this channel is going to move into finance and different things, but I wanted to start with happiness because that's really what I'm passionate about. I'm also going to expand this into a personal meetup group, I believe. I want to have the EXP meetup group here in Vegas and have people just come for free and just have a positive environment of people that they can be around and share that positivity with other people. And if they're feeling down, they can just come and absorb positivity, and we can do some of these different tangible tips that I've put out and actually participate as a group in doing them. And I think it would be so cool to see a group of people go out and 10 people make 10 other people's day, and it spreads, and then those people join the group, and I feel like it's really a way to change the world. Starting to tear up just thinking about it because it's something that I'm passionate about. That's kind of my vision for this whole thing. That's the purpose for the channel. That's the why. That is why I'm creating these videos, and that's a little bit about who I am, so you guys understand why I'm talking about happiness. And so with that being said, I hope you guys have a great day. Now you understand a little bit more about who I am and why I'm making the channel. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys can take something from it. I appreciate you for watching, and I will see you guys on that road to happiness, for the GPS to happiness, whatever you want to call it. And I appreciate you for watching. See ya later.